There was legit a 5-year period that if braised ribs were being served up at a restaurant, I was getting it. I didn't need to see anything else on the menu. And it's really quite a simple recipe to prepare. Pan-seared, slow-braised, bone-in beef short ribs. Vegetables, herbs, a really tasty broth. And the flavors that come from it are incredibly rich and delicious. I think you're gonna love this one. But first, we're gonna start off by knocking out a little prep. Sound good? Let's cook. So a great place to start with the vegetables we're going to cut up and add to the broth to help flavor up everything is with onion, celery, and carrots. Mirepoix, the basis for all cooking. But you don't need to stop there. If you want some added flavors from root vegetables, try parsnips, turnips, or even celeriac root. You can sub in or add into this. What we're gonna do is just large dice all these.
I've got 2 medium-sized yellow onions. You could substitute in whites or sweets if you want. I'm going to slice off the end, slice it in half, remove that outside peel. Next, I'm going to large dice it, just add them to a bowl. Now I have 2 carrots, which I'm going to peel, and you know the peelings are gold, my friend, and perfect for stock. So I'm going to add them to the freezer until I've accumulated enough to make stock. Then for the knife cuts, we're going to large dice these, and make sure you take the time to get the knife cuts right. Too small and they'll turn into mush. Too large, and there won't be enough time to extract flavor. Now I've got 2 ribs of celery, doing the exact same knife cut, a large dice, adding them to the bowl with the onions and carrots. Next, I'm going to add in 4 cloves of garlic. Now for the herbs, I've got about a 1.5 foot piece of butcher's twine. I'm going to add in 3 or 4 sprigs of flat leaf parsley. Next, 6 to 8 sprigs of fresh thyme, 1 sprig of fresh rosemary. Next, I'm going to add in 1 dried bay leaf. What I like to do is just tie this in a double knot so that nothing is coming out when I'm cooking, and I don't have to go on a fishing expedition when my short ribs are finished to get all these herbs out of there. Cut off any excess, then we're just going to set this to the side.
And one of the positives about short ribs are that you can usually pick them up for in between $8 and $10 a pound, sometimes on sale for $6 or $7. If they are, you better snag some. They're a rectangle cut from the chuck area of the cow. It's got a little bit of the rib still in there, layers of fat and meat, but because they're from that chuck area, it can be a little bit tough. That's why we braise and slow cook them to help break everything down, and there's plenty of fat in there to help flavor everything up. That's what makes them perfect for this procedure. Now, if you remember my Kalbi ribs video, they were cross-cut, so they would have been cut this way with little skinny bones in them. These are just cut the other way. That's all it is. All right, what we're gonna do here is just season both sides very well with salt and pepper.
And these are thick pieces of meat, so generously season these, and as always, be about a foot away from what you're seasoning so you can cover every little square centimeter so every bite is perfectly seasoned. Going over to the cooktop, I've got a large Dutch oven pot. I'm going to add in 2 tablespoons of rendered lard. You could use ghee, clarified butter, or any neutral flavored oil. Turning the heat up to medium-high. Once the lard begins to lightly smoke, we're going to add in our short ribs, fat side down or bone side up. It's okay if they're packed in a little tight because as they cook and brown up, they'll tighten up a little bit and you'll have more room. Now these are going to take about 3 to 4 minutes per side to get that beautiful golden brown just like this. This is the color you are looking for. Anything less is not going to do.
And I can't stress this enough. Take the time to get that perfect sear on these. If you have to adjust the temperature and turn it down a little bit so it doesn't burn, please do it. We're not looking for a medium rare internal temperature and have some time limit. We're going to be cooking these for over 2.5 hours. It is so important because the flavor that will come from this will be exponential. I promise it's worth it.
And when I say all sides, I mean all sides. Take the time to flip it over and get these golden brown. I can't say it enough. The flavors are going to be so much better in your broth and on your short ribs. Look at this perfect golden brown, all sides. At this point, I'm going to set the short ribs aside on a plate. Let's go back over to our pot. We've got a decent amount of rendered short rib fat and lard. I'm going to discard half of it. Look, you can keep all of this if you want. It will be a bit greasy, but there's a lot of flavor in there as well. We're going to add in our onion, celery, carrots, and garlic. We're going to turn the heat back up to medium-high. What we want to do is saute this for 5 to 7 minutes. You know the position. Put your hand on your hip when stirring anything. Once they get a little bit browned on the outside edges of the vegetables, we're in good shape here. We're going to deglaze with 2 cups of good red wine, a Sangiovese, Chianti, Shiraz, Cabernet Sauvignon, or Merlot, a full-bodied red here. Even Bordeaux would be great. What we're going to do is bring this to a boil and cook it down.
Now, in a lot of recipes out there, you would put the tomato paste in first and cook them with the vegetables and then add the wine. For me, I think the wine can provide more flavor by cooking it down first and concentrating it and then adding in the tomato paste. That's just me. However, you can do it the regular way. I think my way is going to give you more flavor.
After the amount of wine is reduced by 1/2, the flavors will be really concentrated and delicious. We're going to add in 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. It's going to add in some really good tomato flavors, and better yet, it's going to help thicken it up just like this. Now, I'm going to add in 8 cups of beef stock, or you can use brodo. Both would be excellent in this recipe. Once all that liquid is in there, we're going to add in our herbs. And the next thing we want to do is generously season this up with salt and fresh cracked black pepper. This is so important. This liquid has to be extremely flavorful. So after you give it a little stir, grab a spoon, taste it, make sure it's seasoned and delicious. If it is, great. Let's add our short ribs back in there. You may have to move a couple things around to make sure the short ribs are submerged. Should be plenty of room in there. Let's turn the heat up a little bit at this point. We want to bring it to a boil. Then we're going to put a lid on it.
All right, Comies, you do have some options here when it comes to braising it. You can put it in the oven at 325 degrees for 2.5 to 3 hours. Or you can put it on a smaller burner. So not your main hottest burner, but a smaller burner on low heat for 2.5 to 3 hours. The choice is yours. I'm going to stick to the cooktop.
So putting it over to that smaller burner, going to turn the heat down to low. This is going to take in between 2.5 to 3 hours for these short ribs to break down and cook. But I'm going to come back every 45 minutes just to check out to see how things are doing.
Now, with about 45 minutes left in the total cooking process, that's 25 to 30 minutes left for braise and 15, 20 minutes left for making the sauce. You need to land on a side dish. We have to serve this up with something. Now, the 3 things you can do, which are super classic, would be creamy mashed potatoes, great option there, or risotto, fantastic. And then last but not least, polenta. My favorite, probably going to be polenta. Love the combination of flavors there. Got a great recipe video for you, or we can recap it from my sausage and peppers video. Here you go.
Going to add a medium-sized sauce pot to the cooktop, turning the heat to medium, adding in about 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Let's add that half small diced yellow onion. We're just going to cook it for about 3 to 4 minutes until lightly browned like this. Then, like I said, I'm going to steal one of those finely minced garlic cloves, add it in there just until fragrant, which takes about 30 seconds. We know it's cooked. Now, at this point, I'm going to add in 6 cups of good chicken stock. You know, I've got a good homemade recipe. Let's turn the heat to high. What we want to do is bring this to a rolling boil, just like this. At this point, I'm going to add in 2 cups of yellow corn grits, also known as polenta. Now, I'm using a whisk as soon as I put it in there. Let's turn the heat down to about low medium. Whisk, whisk, whisk. Continue to whisk. Keep your hand on your hip. You know the position. We're doing this so that it doesn't clump together. But after a few minutes, it's going to get very, very thick and hard to whisk. So at this point, I usually switch over to a spoon. And this is going to take about 12 to 15 minutes for it to get to this nice, thick, cooked consistency. What we want to do is finish it off with a few things, starting with 4 tablespoons of unsalted butter. You could use 4 tablespoons of olive oil. Next, a half cup of grated Parmesan cheese. Of course, season it up with salt and fresh cracked black pepper. Mix all of these things together until it's completely combined and the butter is melted. And then just have a taste. Does it need more butter? Does it need more cheese? Salt, pepper, you name it. If you've decided it's good, what we're going to do is just put a lid on it and set it to the side. Now let's check out our short ribs. It's been about 2.5 hours. Looks very, very good. Now, a great way to know when the short ribs are done, if you give a little press, there's a little jiggle to them and they start to really release from the bone with ease, we are done. We need to extract all of our short ribs, so I'm going to use a slotted spoon and some tongs just to make sure nothing breaks up. Setting them to the side on a plate very briefly. Let's grab that pot of goodness, all that braising liquid. We are going to strain it through a chinois or a fine mesh strainer. Now, there are going to be a lot of vegetables left over, the carrots, the celery, and onions, garlic. You can use this if you want in our final sauce. For me, I don't want to use it. I'm just going to discard it. Again, you can use it. I want to reiterate that. All right, set it to the side or discard it. Let's add that sauce that's been strained to a pot, back over to a burner, cooking it over high heat. It's going to take about 20 minutes for this to reduce down and concentrate. In the meantime, We're going to be doing a little mixing and matching here, so let's add the short ribs back over to that original pot. They're going to rest in there, and they're going to keep warm, okay, for that entire 20 to 25 minutes of the cooking process for our sauce. It's just a great way to do it. All right, after that amount of time, let's go have a look at that sauce. It looks really good. The viscosity is excellent. The flavor is beyond fantastic. You will love this.
And it's always in the details and taking the time to do each of these procedures in its entirety so that the final dish is delicious. Getting that sear on your short ribs, making sure the braising liquid is incredibly flavorful, cooking down that sauce at the end. I'm telling you, when you do these things and put all of these fundamental classic cooking techniques into practice, it will always elevate your everyday cooking. That is my guarantee to you. All right, so when you cool this down, this will last in the refrigerator covered for up to 5 days, or cover it and put it in the freezer for up to 6 months. Freezes super well. All right, let me show you how to plate this up.
Let's add some polenta to a bowl or plate, totally optional here. Add 1 nice sized short rib or 2 if you're really hungry, and then generously spoon on that amazing sauce. This is gravy heaven. And then you can garnish it with parsley, thyme, or even rosemary.
This is absolutely food bliss for me. The flavors are so good. I really think your family's going to love it. Now, if you love those slow-cooked, braised, fall-off-the-bone type of recipes, definitely check out my lamb shanks over risotto. Oh, so good. I've got a great recipe video. You'll love it. See you on there.